DrVem TV presents Rizz, the video essay. I did a lecture on this twice during my time as a high school teacher, mostly because we had a lot of young dudes in our school and they asked me to do a presentation on Rizz. So I did. Stick around and find out how to be a true Rizz lord, I guess. Here's the table of contents, thanks to slidesgo.com. Check them out, they did not sponsor this video. First off, Rizz is just slang. It refers to people wanting to get laid a lot, sometimes. The second part, in the middle that we'll talk about, is all about the philosophy behind Rizz and its predecessors, and it also includes a personal reflection on this. And the third part, the end, is where I teach you how to be a Rizzler, no cap. Rizz is basically just short for charisma. It was coined by the Twitch streamer Kai Cenat in early 2021. And here's the whole wiki page for it. It's really interesting. So the word Rizz originated with Kai Cenat, seen here in this picture, and later became viral on TikTok. But according to Cenat, TikTok butchered the word, so he's not using it anymore. And then in 2023, apparently, actor Tom Holland explained in an interview with BuzzFeed that he possessed limited Rizz, and it was by playing the long game that helped to win over his girlfriend, actress Zendaya. So that's some in the media popular stuff for you. And even if I hate this brain rot age of slang, I gotta admit that Rizz is kind of funny as a concept. Being charismatic, though, has always been a thing men primarily want to be, obviously. Like, attracting a partner, feeling pretty, and knowing that you are objectively hot feels like a no-brainer. Why would you not want that? Historically, signs of power and wealth have been considered attractive, just like they are today. Being fat and owning land used to be considered signs that you were very rich and powerful, and today having huge muscles and expensive cars are some of the signifiers of wealth and power. So even if being attractive and finding a partner is an age-old struggle, being obsessed with having Rizz or being charming for the explicit purpose of being considered attractive is a fairly new problem in human history, since it very much connects to a person's sense of worth and can make people do real weird shit. So, through the ages, people have wanted to be desirable. If you look at the history of fashion, you'll see that people have literally crippled themselves to reach an ideal that was considered fucking Sigma level hotness. And yes, the reality is that your looks and your desirability can be used to your advantage, and it can be used against you. Does that denote skill and worth, though? What is skillful and what is worthy? Is there a list someone has that everyone agrees on? Worth is generally divided into instrumental and intrinsic worth. Instrumental worth means that something has value if it is useful in achieving something else. And intrinsic worth means that something is valuable just because of what it is. Like me and writing. It has some value monetarily, it has some value socially, etc. So there's some instrumental worth in me writing stuff. But the biggest worth that my writing has to me is to me as a person. It's the value I place in it because it makes me feel good and I enjoy it. Being charming or having Rizz can also have both instrumental and intrinsic value. But what is the end goal of Rizz apart from getting laid? Well, no need to ask yourselves this. Some dudes have already answered it thoroughly. The obvious end goal of the whole idealism around being a Rizz Lord, alpha, or having game as it was called back in my day, is to get laid. You want to spang, you want to smash, you want to fornicate. It's a simple goal and you're trying to bang that goal. But the more insidious effects of this is that it creates a predatory mindset and glorifies it. With this mindset, people excuse drugging, taking advantage of, and outright lying to other people simply because they think the ends justify the means. It simplifies an important part of human interaction and actively dehumanizes it and the people involved. Now, who doesn't like getting a little dehumanized now and again? Like getting gagged and whipped. But even then, it is supposed to be done with care and compassion. Pick up or Rizz up, I guess? Fucking stupid shit. Either way, that shit takes out the care and compassion and leaves only a very one-sided and often abusive power structure. When I was younger and very dumb and lonely, I watched some videos about having game, as they called it then. There was even a book called The Game. It was basically just dudes talking about picking up girls and how easy it was if you just went to their seminars, did their courses, and paid for their secrets. This is also what Rizz is about. The names have changed, but the tactics and shit are basically the same. They were weird, and it wouldn't surprise me if one or more of the dudes involved have committed crimes. But I watched those videos because I was insecure and lost and small-minded, and I thought that these coked out crackers could save me from this unfair position society had put me in. One of the things I did, that these artistes recommended, was to ask for numbers. They argue that, statistically, you will mostly get rejected. But if you get used to being rejected and don't take it as a comment on your worth, just the other person's tastes, you'll be less awkward when interacting with people overall, but also when trying to get laid. So I asked for numbers from strangers that I saw out on the town and in bars and in stores, and most of them never fucking wanted to be asked anything by me. I wasn't interested in these people as people, but I used them as practice dummies, basically. It was weird, it was awkward, it was definitely creepy. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask for numbers ever or that you shouldn't learn to accept being rejected. You should. I cared too much about this, and because of that, I was very weird. I was very lonely and depressed for a good while in my youth and constantly wanted to be loved and be intimate with someone. This sometimes made me real creepy, like asking strangers for numbers without regard for their experience. What really made me feel better and do better was not finding someone who loved me so good I could change, but loving myself better, as beta cuck low test as that sounds. The difference between these two states of being is that I used to base a lot of my self-worth on what external validation I could get. And now I placed most of it on the internal validation I've cultivated over the years. While I was taking better care of myself, I met my wife, who thought that me showing myself care and compassion occasionally was so fucking hot that she asked me to marry her after a year. And yes, ever since we met, the process has gone better and quicker than it would without her. But the important thing that we both agree on is that she didn't save me or I her. We rely on each other, we have honest exchanges of ideas, thoughts, and feelings, and try our hardest to always keep in perspective that it is us against the problem, not that one or the other is the problem. Neither of us thinks that the secret to being happy can lie entirely on another person's shoulders, but one must make one's own happiness and hopefully share it. I also rub her feet now and then and make her tea, so that probably helps out. On our first date, I wasn't trying to rizz up my wife. I was there to get to know her. I honestly didn't have anything else in mind. Mostly because I felt nervous just at the thought of even kissing another person at that point in my life. We had a long walk. We talked about everything, and at the end of the evening, we were sitting in a bar opposite each other. It was when I switched seats to sit next to her that she claims that I showed any type of rizz or game. I was trying to flirt with her because after getting to know each other better, I was genuinely attracted to her. The interest we showed each other, and still do, is without ulterior motive. Like my wife said to me, the response can only be genuine if the intent is genuine. So while external validation in the form of a loving partner or hearing that you are hot, sexy, humana humana awooga is nice and helps with some sense of self-worth, What really matters and what brings most external validation is creating a ton of internal validation. So look at yourself and see yourself for the beautiful human being that you are. So what this boils down to is that Rizz or game or charisma does not reflect your own personal worth. And when you think it does, you become very unsexy. I get it. Everyone needs somebody. Love is the strongest thing in the world, etc. But you can start by taking care of yourself as much as you can, and being as nice to yourself as you can. Being so desperate to be loved that you invent fake personalities or try to trick people with some kind of bro science psychology just screams mental health issues. Trust me, I know. So fucking go see a therapist and talk about this incessant need to be loved and fucked. What has become clear to me over my years of teaching is how closely connected Rizz and masculinity are for a lot of young men. And this leads me to something else I wanted to talk about, and something I think is important. I want to talk about my own sense of masculinity and what has helped me become a better person, a person I love. What I think makes me a man, as a straight white man who's not a toxic asshole. And among these things, I want to talk about 3 concepts: accountability, honor, and compassion. I think accountability is important for my sense of masculinity because a man stands for what he has done or said. And if what he did or said was hurtful or wrong, he should hold himself accountable for that and apologize. Not doing so is cowardly. And there are several examples of men who refuse to hold themselves accountable for their behavior, like Donald Trump and Andrew Tate, to name the most obvious ones. Lying about and denying their behavior and actions, as well as its effects on others, clearly shows that they take no accountability for their actions or themselves, which is cowardly. When it comes to honor, I think I have a fairly idealistic sense of honor, and I've gained this from watching too much movies and TV, but mostly from reading fantasy books, honestly. And to me, honor is a kind of social currency. If you're honorable, that means you're reliable, you're truthful, you're kind. It builds on accountability, because without accountability, you will not be able to have honor. You can trust the word of an honorable person, and an honorable person is someone you can turn to for help. You can feel safe with an honorable person, and you can trust an honorable person to do the right thing. Compassion also builds on accountability, as well as honor. Accountability to me is a logical, philosophical, and moral concept, clearly useful for furthering society and industry alike. Honor is more of a value-based concept, and not necessarily the best policy for survival or supremacy, for example. You don't need honor to be powerful, and being powerful does not necessarily mean you're honorable. This is something that leaders and countries have shown for ages. But together, these concepts stand as a base to the concept of compassion. And compassion is important to my sense of masculinity, because when I see people being mean or treating each other badly in general, I have a hard time even thinking of them as human. And being human is central to being a man. I consider myself to now be a fairly good human. I would even dare to say I'm decent. But I have not always been. And I've grown from a very troubled and sad young person who did not always do or say the best things. And to this day, I obviously make mistakes, but when I do, I want other people and myself to hold me accountable for it. This video is not the end-all, be-all answer to anything. It's a video based on my own values and opinions, which in turn are influenced by so many things in my life, and I honestly can't list and talk about them in one video. That's probably for another time. Thanks for watching. I love you all. Bye. Thanks to my wife, my friends, and the team behind DrVem for supporting and enabling this reckless behavior. If you liked any of this, give us a follow, a subscribe, a bell dingling, and visit our socials, links in the description. We're not yet sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, but I want to. I really want to. It feels like a rite of passage, a stamp of approval.